How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful, sunny, warm spring day here in Winnipeg, Canada, way up north from you in beautiful California. And it's going to get to about 20 something above here today, so that's nice.
Wait, that's nice. 20 above is nice.
Well, considering what our winters are usually like, yes,
Yeah.
it's for yeah. So yeah, it's beautiful. Like my yard is a wildlife sanctuary. I have a bunch of bird,
Oh,
squirrel feeders and trees and all that out there, and so it's nice. It's nice to see everybody in the little wildlife community out in my yard having fun.
nice. Right
Yeah.
on. Does it
How you
get
been?
warmer or is it like that like year round? Is this the warmest it'll get?
Oh no, it gets into like the 30s in summer. Like we're in a humid continental climate zone here, so winters are like minus 20 to minus 40, and then summers are like plus 30 to 35. So it's really extreme weather conditions here. It's
And are you
crazy.
talking Fahrenheit or Celsius?
No, we're different. Yeah, we're Fahrenheit, you're Celsius, I believe, right?
No, I'm
So
Fahrenheit as well.
so our minus, like when we're minus 30, it would be like minus 6 million for you guys.
Wow. It would be really hard for me. I have, well, apparently I found out it's a condition, but my hands and feet are always cold. So that would be
Really?
a little rough for me. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't like it. Like it's amazing. Canada's incredible and a beautiful country for sure. Especially the spring, summer, and fall.
Awesome.
Winter, not so much. Like depending what you like. If you're into snowboarding and that kind of stuff, it's incredible. And there's some beautiful, there's beautiful mountains and all kinds of areas that aren't as cold as where I live. So I'm north of Minnesota, right? So we get and North Dakota and all that. So similar kind of weather to what they get, which is why most people don't want to live there.
Yeah, totally makes sense. But you're
Yeah.
right. If you were over here in Northern California, it'd be about, oh, it's kind of cold today. We're like at 50 and overcast.
Okay. So 50 and overcast, 50 would be about what, 20, 22 for us, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which is a
Yeah.
nice day for us today. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I shouldn't complain, but man, it's kind of like day after day because I'm on the coast. It's gray, gray, gray.
yeah.
It's starting to get to me a little bit. I'm like, I really just want some sunshine. Even if it's cold, it would be nice to have some sunshine. But, we're coming up to that, I think, soon.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So last time we talked, you had put out your first book, and now here you are ready to put out your second book.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so excited. I remember when we started chatting and I went on your podcast. I guess that was almost 2 years ago now, probably, maybe
Wow.
somewhere around there. And yeah, and I was just in the sort of still the very um newfound feelings that came with writing out such a powerful book, and it had really started to take off and done so even more so, and reached so many people and helped so many people through depression and anxiety and different
Mm.
states of compromised mental health. And so um in writing my first book, One Drop of Water, there's quite a few chapters, and I kind of wrote it in a way that I could take any of those chapters and turn them into the next book.
Wow.
So
Smart.
the book that I'm launching next month is called The Monarch Butterfly Effect, and that is a chapter within One Drop of Water. And so this one is where One Drop of Water kind of talks about my life battle with addiction, depression, suicidal ideation, anxiety, all kinds of stuff, and sort of what caused it and how I overcame it eventually. And this book really specializes in from one of the chapters that is all about finding purpose and how
Mm.
that finding purpose for me changed my life when I started dedicating to helping more people and sort of taking myself out of the main equation and making it about everybody else. Like, from what you've done in the communities and stuff, you start volunteering at homeless shelters, you start, helping people get through some, tough tests of sobriety, you start dedicating your time to and your energy to helping other people through their hardships. You don't have a lot of time to sit back and feel sorry for yourself anymore, right? Because you're in purpose, and when you're in purpose, you are in the moment. And when you're in the moment, you can control your life. And so this is also it ties in big with the monarch butterfly, which is such an iconic, beautiful little animal.
Yeah.
You know, this little creature flies all the way from Mexico all the way to Canada, 3,000 miles every year, and then flies back, and it has this crazy life cycle. And so um, it's something like my dad was a big nature guy, and really, really instilled a huge love of nature for me. I'm an ecotherapist now, and I work with kids, and my whole instrument for therapy is nature, right? And so I just really wanted to sort of pick something that symbolized so many different things to so many different people. And butterflies symbolize, life after death and transformation and all these different things. And so the book is about finding purpose and transforming your mental health to become the most optimal version of yourself, so that you can live the life that you want to its fullest. And you train hard and you're in the gym, so you understand pushing, for physical health. Well, this book is the tie-in that brings sort of the mind and body together, through purpose, and then gives the individual the choice to make the transformation they need in their life. So I'm super excited about it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, so I noticed the tattoo of the monarch on your hand. Is that newer is that for the
Yeah, you
book,
know
or have
what?
you had that for a while?
Well, I got both my hands done. So this one I can't get the
Mm.
right angle here, but this is a ruby-throated hummingbird,
Oh, yep.
and it says dad here. And so my dad's favorite things were monarch butterflies. So I got this one, and ruby-throated hummingbirds. And when my dad passed, I guess about almost 2 years ago now. So my dad died of stomach cancer.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess about a year and change after my book had come out. And it was a horrible thing to go through, obviously. And so I was, yeah, it's sort of like a tribute to my dad, right? So every time I'm doing anything, I look down and he's with me, whatever I'm
Mm.
doing. And, and it's just a really pleasant and awesome reminder, to keep, doing what I'm doing, and that he's with me every step of the way.
Dude, that's crazy. When you and I were messaging just a few days ago, we talked about you being on the podcast. I didn't have any of this information. And there was, as we were messaging, I was following a butterfly, a monarch butterfly, as I was walking my dogs. So that's
Wow.
so crazy. Like, how
Yeah.
powerful is that?
Well, that's how it works, right? And
Yeah.
in the monarch butterfly effect, I talk about miracles so much,
Mm,
and we got to train ourselves to see them, because they are everywhere. Like,
yeah.
they are happening. Like, everything in life right now is a freaking miracle. Let's be honest, right? Like, it's just so crazy. But we get calloused as we grow. When we're a kid, we look at the wonderment of the whole world, and it's just so big, and we want to know everything. And as we get older and older, we become a little more cynical, and and we lose that. And when this book is really about finding that newfound focus where you can feel and see these miracles everywhere. And once you start doing that, you're able to, it changes your life, because you're able to become present in those miracles and be a part of it. You might not change the outcome, might change what happens within it, but you're part of it. And that's substantial, and that's incredible. And it's, there's friends of mine that unfortunately their baby girl passed when she was about one, and just
Mm.
a horrific, hard time they went through. And so they've always cited like monarch butterflies and all these different things. And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I had painted them this beautiful, huge monarch butterfly painting. They do an auction to raise money for the Children's Wish Foundation and Children's Hospital here in Winnipeg. And when I went and dropped it off to her, a monarch butterfly flies by.
Mm.
And it was like probably about a month, almost too early for a monarch to be here. And like, we couldn't believe it. We're like in shock. And it's just like, but that's, God or the universe or whatever you choose to call it or feel it or believe, whatever you want to believe. That's that in action, right? And it's everywhere. We just got to be able to see it. And that's one of the things I really hope my book hits home with a lot of people, is that you choose to see them and be part of these miracles. You just got to open up your eyes, and it's that easy, that when we do that and we change how we see things, we can change our lives, and then we can change other people's as well.
So it's so interesting that you say that, because that's kind of been my journey this last year. And it was just like a little over a year ago where I went to this women's retreat. And one of the big realizations that I had is, I went in with the intention of seeing the magic again. I felt so closed off, like I didn't see it anymore. It was just all I saw was stress and trauma and all this stuff. And I had this epiphany that, I had built up this wall so strong to sort of protect myself, my family, my group, all that kind of stuff. But by building this strong wall, I was like preventing good stuff from coming in as
Yeah.
well. And so like this last year has been this process of me sort of taking down the wall, which leaves you a little vulnerable, but that's what you kind of got to do in order to also see the magic and the miracles, which is fortunately for me what I get to witness all the time these days, which is just amazing and beautiful. And like, yes, I feel like a kid again. Yeah, everything is still stressful and there's all this stuff and all these
Yeah.
things and responsibilities and all this, but at the same time, there's so much beauty there as well.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So here's the other thing, and I learned last year, because one of these other retreats I did, she talked about our life as similar to the cocoon, and where are you at in that stage? And some people are going into their cocoon, some are coming out, some are flying. But she
Mhm.
was saying when you're in the goo, and I didn't realize this, like butterflies completely like dissolve their bodies. It's not like they just turn into a caterpillar
Yeah.
and life is great. Like they like dissolve into a liquid and reform as a caterpillar, which then leaves the cocoon, which is fascinating to me. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, I'm in that goo. That's where I'm at
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
We're still in this like, this phase of recreating, I guess.
Yeah, like it's I love what you just said, because I actually just finished editing and writing a little bit more about the whole chrysalis stage, right?
Yeah.
And so that in the monarch butterfly effect too, what I really encourage people to do is become comfortable within darkness, right? We're so used to like, oh my God, this is scary and dark. We got to run. We got to do everything to fight it and block it, and like you said, build our walls, and all these different things. And sometimes they work, but only for a little while, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just writing about the fact that like there is power in these stages of the life of the monarch, right? It's an egg, and then it becomes a caterpillar, and then that caterpillar it forms a chrysalis, and by doing that, like it sheds it molts its skin, and then it starts spinning, and then it has these little spinnerets that it shoots like silk out by its mouth, creates this little thing it hooks up to and hangs by its back legs, and then upside down, and then literally starts to almost like eat itself outwards and form this thing, and then these chemicals and the combinations create that hard shell, and then over the next 10 to 14 days in that enclosed containment, it goes through the most arduous and crazy transformation where, like you said, it basically liquefies itself and completely changes and alters its physical form into something the opposite of what it was, which was sort of
Yeah.
like like this chubby caterpillar, into this thing with wings and proboscis, a big tongue and antenna, and it's just it's insane, but it's such a powerful metaphor for our navigation in life as well, like as far as our mental one or emotional one or intellectual one, spiritual, all those things, because you have to go through the dark to see the light. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you do in life, if you're a bazillionaire or if you're poor or if you're famous or if you're nobody or whatever, any of those things. You will never ever get to that light if you don't go through a period of darkness. It's just that's how it works. And I really wanted to sort of write in a way that kind of holds people's hands like into it and say like, I've gone through the darkest of darkness. Like I attempted to take my life with full intent. Like I was given a second chance, not by me, by way more powerful forces than myself. And if I can walk from that and learn to embrace those fears and that darkness and all those different things,
Mhm.
anyone else can. I'm no better than anyone else. I'm no stronger than anyone else. There's way stronger people than me out there in this world that have been through way harder things than me. But sometimes it just takes that one person, right? Just to say, it's going to be okay. This is how I did it. Or just hold my hand, trust me. Or just figure it out on your own, but this is how I did it. And so it's incredible that you brought that up about the chrysalis, because it's such a powerful component of that butterfly's life. And I was talking like in this chapter about everybody wants to become the butterfly, but nobody wants to be the caterpillar, right? And so it's a really good representation of the fact that most people don't want to put in the hard work, right? Like they don't
Yep.
like the ugly stuff, you know. And a lot of people don't think caterpillars, they think they're gross, and I think they're cute and fascinating, beautiful little creatures myself. But
They're fuzzy.
I'm again, like I was raised with creepy crawlers, and I'm
Yeah.
like spiders in this hand and centipedes in this one and frog. Like I just love that stuff. And but every like that's the biggest thing, is that people don't want to go through that caterpillar phase. They don't want to put the work in. They don't want to go through the ugly, hard stuff in our mental metamorphosis, like where you have to face the dark truths about yourself and about your past and about the things you haven't healed from, or all those. And it sucks, but it's the most necessary part, because if that caterpillar doesn't make that chrysalis doesn't evolve the butterfly, and then that butterfly doesn't come out and fly and start and continue the life cycle, right? So super important. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think, well, what I know, it's not a one and done. It's like you do this process and now for the rest of your life, you're great. It's like it just comes, at least for me, I've gone through this many, many, many times, and
Yeah.
it never gets easier, but the reward is always there. But when you're in it, you're thinking, man, it's never been this bad. And then I retrospectively go, is it really? Because you've kind of survived this, and this. But
Yeah.
it's a continual process, I think, throughout a lifetime. Like it's never just a one and done, and now you're set forever.
100% agree. I mean, life keeps moving and grooving, right? Life doesn't stop when when you're having a hard time. It just keeps moving, and it's our job to catch up to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can get a little bit ahead of it, which is great. Other times we're getting pulled behind it. But if we can sort of maintain the majority of our time with it, we'll do a lot better. But that's the thing, is like you go through these hard things and you learn, and then you gather some wisdom and out of that experience. And the next time it's not going to be the exact same, but that's just like you're saying, you do a little bit of introspection and you go like, hey, wait a minute, I've been through harder than this, or I've been through worse, or my heart's been broken before, or whatever, these different things, or my ego's been checked at, badly, or whatever, these different things, right? Ego's a real big one for many people, including myself.
Yep.
And
Big one.
yeah, well,
I
for
think more
sure,
so
right?
for men. I mean, not in a critical way, but it's just part of your DNA, and that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. If we go back to, the last million years of evolution, there's different roles between male and female, and there's
Yeah.
bravado and different things that started, that way back in mating courtships and all these different things that, is just part of our biology, right? And it's
Yeah.
primordial, and it's in us, and it's in women too. And that's a beautiful thing. And but as we go through life, and we continue to get our doses of adversity, because they're going to always come in all different shapes, forms, time. Like it never, adversity never shows up when you want it to. It's not like you're standing there like this and like, okay, I got this, let's go bring it. It doesn't come then. It waits till
No.
you're beat down a little bit and things aren't going great. Maybe you were sick for 2 weeks and you haven't been at the gym, so you're not feeling the best mentally and physically. That's when it'll come and start to zap at you, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, you start, every experience going through it. And in this book, what I'm really like trying to promote is that when we can have that embracement with our fear, because fear stems from the darkness,
Yeah.
and failure and all those different things, and we can learn to embrace those things, they actually can become very powerful allies in, what we're able to do moving forward, right? And so you may have built that wall, like you said, but you're smart enough to realize, oh, wait a minute, I can't see anymore, and you got to take a few bricks down, and get some mortar out of there and bring it down a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I can see again. And now I know what I got to do. Right. But,
Yeah.
and that's the beautiful thing. Like, at least you're doing that. There's literally billions of people stuck, not doing anything and standing still in life. Right. So,
Yeah. Well, don't you think, and I liken this to a drug rehab, like a lot of people, they just know one way. And it's, the AANA philosophy,
yeah.
that's the most predominant one, been around forever. And a lot of people have not maybe succeeded. And so people ask me, well, why is there so much failure? And I said, well, a lot of times people don't realize there's other ways. There's many ways to skin a cat. And if you think this is the only way and they failed at this way, they're, of
Yeah.
course, when they think about it, going to think, well, why would I try that again? I'm just going to fail. But what they don't realize is if you look outside of the norm, there is all kinds of opportunities and possibilities to still get the same result, but in a different way. It's just, you know, whether people have that acumen to like do the research and try to find other ways, or they just succumb to, this is just it, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the individual.
Yeah, 100%. Like I've spoken at quite a few, you know, different variations of treatment for addicts, you know, alcohol. And I, you know, just to be clear, like if you you know have a problem with alcohol, you're an addict. Like a lot of people still like to try and pretend that alcohol is like it's different, but it's the worst poison of all of them, in my opinion. But you know, and it's a good point you bring up because you know, when people that are in AA and they work for a lot of people, don't get me wrong, so I'm not knocking it. It saved
Yeah.
my father's life.
Yeah.
For me, doesn't work. And you know, there's some various personal reasons why it doesn't. And I just found that a lot of times it was a very ego-driven room with, you know, everybody kind of playing the hierarchy role and all these different things. And maybe I focused on the wrong things, but it wasn't for me. It's worked for millions of people around the world, so it's great that way. But like you said, you know, if something doesn't work for you, you can't just stop there. You can't just go like, well, I guess that's it. You know, I'm gonna just, you know, slowly kill myself over the next 10 years drinking and doing drugs. And you know, so I kind of came up with my own system of how to do things, and I talked a little bit about it in my first book, and I dive into it deeper in this book. And so it's called the transformation triangle. And so it's just like a triangle. The top is self-discipline. On this corner of the triangle is self-respect, and on this one is self-love. And so basically they're all connected, but because it's a triangle, it can change different form and still be a triangle. So if you're leaning more, say, on your self-love, you know, that arc might be a little longer. So if it goes from a right triangle to an acute, an isosceles, and look at me showing off my geometry there. But
Right? I'm like, I hope he doesn't think I know
you're
what he's
like,
saying right now.
but yeah, but what's really important about that is like, so you get your self-discipline, and so you take your small little steps, and whether that's like, I'm not going to drink right now, I'm not going to, you know, make a phone call to, you know, the drug dealer or whatever it is. And you do these small steps of discipline. What it does is it shoots down and connects to that self-respect. And even if you gain that little tiny ounce of self-respect, what happens is it gives you a little bit more confidence, and then that shoots over to self-love. And then you start to feel, once you've got more respect for yourself, you start to negate a lot of the negative things that you normally, you know, the habits and the behaviors that you do. And then you start to go like, I like this person that I'm becoming, and I love this person. But
Yeah.
what's the most paradigm part of this triangle is the matter that holds the triangle together is belief. And you have to believe that these things are all working. And so with this transformation triangle, like the model I used it for, you know, for depression and mental health. I've used it for, you know, any type of goal I want to achieve. It works, right? And so the same thing with staying, you know, away from alcohol, which, you know, I have for almost 3 years now, and which is great. And you know, drugs even longer, and all these different things. And it's like, so that works for me, and I share that with a lot of people, and a lot of people have adopted it, you know, along the way, you know, from different seminars I've been at, or where I've gone and spoken and whatever. And I've had people message me, you know, 6 months later, just saying, I want you to know that this changed my life, or this saved my life, or this saved my marriage, because I was able to adopt this and make it work, right? And so there's tons of ways to do it. Some people really lean super heavy on other people for support, and there's other people, like, you know, type A's like myself, or probably like you, that are, you know, more like, I can do this, I'll do it, I'll find my way, right? And that's what it's all about. And I mean, you got to develop that resiliency in life, otherwise you're not going to go anywhere.
I love that, and I like that it molds to either, because you're right. There's two different kinds of us, and but here's my question for you. You said faith. Does this include like a higher power, or more like faith in the process that if you're doing all three of these things, it's all going to work out?
Both, 100% both. Like you got like if you have to believe in what you're doing is working, and then it works.
Yeah.
right? You can't go into something and go like, well, I'll believe it when it works. You have to believe it before that, and then it works. It might not work exactly the way you want in the beginning. It may not work on the time schedule you've allocated for yourself or whatever. But if you believe in something and you do it, it will work. And that's the bottom line. So believing in those three integral parts and acting out on them, it will work. But also you got to believe, in my opinion, in a higher power.
Yeah.
And we're in a crazy world right now where if you say God, it's bad, and if you say this or that or whatever, so I'll just leave it very open. So whether you choose to believe that it is God or Allah or Buddha or the universe or the creator or Mother Earth, whatever, gets you going and gets you through the night, believe it, and believe it even more than you did the day before. Because it's just every night and every day and every time I find myself in any challenge, I pray. And as soon as I say that to a lot of people, they're like, oh God, he's religious. Oh, we gotta get out of here, right? And it's like, I don't pray necessarily to what people would think you do in church. When I pray, I give my thanks back
Yeah.
into the energy of the universe, to God, to whatever you want to call it. I don't care. And then I offer what I'm going to do to make it better, not just for myself, but for other people. Like, this is what I'm giving back, right? So there's a flow of
Mm.
positive energy. I'm receiving, I'm giving. And that's a big challenge for a lot of people because everybody wants to receive, right? But not so many people want to give back. A lot of people, I'll talk to them and they'll tell me about how I ask every night for my life to get better. I'm like, okay, that's great. But what are you offering to make it better, right? Like, what are you doing? Like, you have to do work, you have to do that. And so I believe that by talking to, maybe it's just imaginary friend, but talking to a higher power, it does empower me, and it gives me hope. And hope is such a powerful thing sometimes. And I don't, hope is a bit of a double edge for me, because some people will hope their whole life away, right? I hope it gets better. I
Mhm.
hope I get a new job. I hope I get, fall in love. I hope all these different things. And sometimes, unfortunately, that hope never comes true.
Yeah.
But on the other side of hope, there's that type of hope that is tangible because you're doing something towards it. You're making action towards that, right? And so I am full of that kind of hope all the time. And that comes from having faith and
Yeah.
believing.
Ah, so many similarities between the two of us, but the biggest one, and I know you like this, is it reminds me of, and I've had a lot of realizations because I've been doing a lot of meditating slash praying like you have, especially in this last
Yeah.
year. That's where I've found the comfort and strength. But in Star Wars, literally the
Oh,
first one, right? It's you're the only hope. Like, and again, it's like there was the hope, but that's all they needed. They still had to do all the work. They still had to
yeah.
do everything and the sacrifice and all the hard stuff, but they had the hope. And as long as they
And
had the hope, they were able
yeah.
to achieve the craziest stuff through
Yeah.
all of the, series of all
Oh,
Star Wars.
yeah.
That is
And
like
they're
the
always
underlying
outgunned,
thread that just
outmanned.
resonates with me.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, think about that. They had the smallest chance to survive. They were outgunned, they were outmanned, outshipped. Everything was going against them. But yes, they had that just little bit of hope.
Yeah.
But they believed in that hope. That's the difference, right? The hope that you can believe in, that becomes faith, and that becomes powerful, and that becomes a suit of armor for like not just you, but for what you're going after. And it protects things, and it opens up so much more. And you know what? The fact that you brought up that Star Wars thing there was just, that was the best. That was the best.
I mean,
It's
pretty much my
so
entire life
incredible.
parallels Star Wars in some way. So if I could bring it up,
Yeah.
I definitely will. It's so genius. Like the writing, it's so mindful. It's so Eastern philosophy. Like if you start to look
Yeah.
behind, the practicality of it, it's like it's pretty fucking ingenious. I just love
Oh
it
yeah.
so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I've quoted in this book, I quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, I quote Yoda, and that in my last book I quoted Yoda and I can't remember who else. Or maybe it was just Yoda in that one. And because I mean, like if you just Google Yoda quotes, you know, like, and like they're incredible. Like the guy's
Yeah.
a straight up Buddhist, you know, man. Like the
Yeah.
guy is just, he's a 900-year-old little frog looking Buddhist that's just so brilliant, you know, and you know, Star Wars is the epic good against bad, you know, the dark against the light. It's just, it's
Yeah.
all the things about, you know, all the parallels, right? And you know, there's the hero and the bad guy, but the bad guys can, maybe there's chance we can help him and fix him. It's never just kill the bad guy and destroy the bad guy, right?
No,
And
we
it's just,
loved Darth Vader. Like, and he was the
yeah,
ultimate bad guy, but for some reason, oh my gosh, I loved him so much.
yeah,
Because you
yeah.
can see the tortured soul underneath, right? Even before the
Oh
prequels,
yeah,
like you could see
yeah,
there was a good person, a tortured person where there was something bad happened that changed them. So I think that's what I always hung to with
yeah,
him. And he was just badass. I mean, to choke
yeah.
somebody from across the universe,
Oh,
like how cool is that?
yeah, and you know, like the one thing I really like, I mean, some of the new movies, you know, I a lot of people don't like them, like a lot of traditional Star Wars people. I still enjoyed them just because of the fact it was Star Wars and they were able to, you know, bring to life a lot more with technology and CGI and all that. But when you go back now and you look at these revamped scenes, I don't know if you've seen any of them with like Obi-Wan fighting Darth Vader, but they've redone it like so it's like modern time. It's just like, oh, it's so crazy. Like it's just, I love
Yeah.
it. I love it so much. So I'll be a big Star Wars geek to the day I die,
Yep.
and drive people nuts all the time with just random Star Wars facts. And whether they ask for them or not, I'll always do it. This is the coolest franchise in my opinion.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I had somebody ask me, they're like, well, which character do you identify most with? And I'm like, oh, you know, it's got to be like Ray because she's like a badass and she uses the Force. I love Leia, but she's not as badass as I would like her to be.
Right.
And I'm going around and around. And then the other day, I was like, I'm actually probably the most like the child. Like, honestly, he's just like, it's kind of naughty. He's kind of rebellious, but he's super
Yeah.
powerful. But, you know, I don't know. I love all of it. I guess different phases. I've been different characters all along.
100%. And
Yeah.
that's the likability of Star Wars. I think that you can, you know, in all the different phases of our life, you can really, you know, all those different characters resonate somehow differently, and you can feel connected to them. You
Yeah.
know, like I loved Han Solo. You know, he's like that kind of smooth talking, little bit of a badass, but like, you know, always on the cusp of getting in big trouble, and but somehow pulling it off. And yeah, I mean, yeah, just it's just so many cool characters. I will say that going like when I watch now, like Luke was a bit of a crybaby.
Yep. Yep.
Skywalker, a little bit of a crybaby guy, but like a little whiny. But you know, back then when I was a kid watching it, like, you know, the first movie I ever went to was Star Wars with my dad,
Yeah.
and like the coolest experience in the world. I think I was like 5 in 1977, and and you know, like I still remember it. You know,
Yeah.
like just being so blown away. Like even when I like, you know, even just going to a movie theater back then was a big ordeal. It's not like now where, you know, it's just like, oh yeah, whatever. What, you know, like it's just such a different world. But
Oh yeah. We waited
yeah,
in line like for a long time to get into a showing
oh
in
yeah.
hopes that
Like I
there'd
mean,
be a seat there by the time we got there.
Empire Strikes Back was the #1 movie for 2.5 years in the theaters. Like it
Wow.
just, it's insanity.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't go for the first 6 months without waiting 2 hours to get into the second Star Wars movie. And yeah, it's just, it's a different world, right? Like first of all, people don't have the patience to do that anymore, and or have the appreciation. You know, you still got, don't get me wrong, there's still some diehard Star Wars geeks that like myself that might dress up like Darth Maul or something, and yeah, you know, like, you
He
know,
is the
be
badass man. He's definitely one of my
he
favorite badass
oh, he
characters.
was, and he just so underused, you know, like he could have
Yeah.
been so much more. Like Kylo Ren to me was like weak, you know,
He
like
was
he
kind
just
of that
didn't seem
whiny,
the
like
part.
Luke. Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of like, I mean, I get it, he was well acted, and I will say that Adam Driver, I think that's his name,
Yeah.
he played him. He did a great job. Like he was believable, and you know, some of the writing wasn't his fault, but um I just think Darth Maul could have been like the ultimate, like the new Darth Vader, basically. I guess he would have been the old Darth Vader because he was before Darth Vader, right? Because he was
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah. Yeah.
kill Anakin. But Yeah, I mean, there's so much cool stuff in Star Wars.
Yeah, but way
That's,
cooler than like Snoke, which was like this weird shadow. Like nobody's scared of that. Like, okay, you're
yeah,
big. Like I was never scared of Snoke. He wasn't a good bad guy. Like we need a, like you said, like a Darth Maul, like a good bad guy in action.
yeah, I agree. And like the thing with Darth Maul, like you just knew he was sinister. Like you knew there was no fucking around with this guy. Like he was there
Yeah.
to do his job, and he didn't care. And you see it in some of the other villains that you're just like you said, like Snoke or Snook, whatever his name was. It just, I don't know, it was so weak, and then like he gets killed so easy too. Like
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
tell him he's controlling Kylo Ren's mind, but then he can't use his mind tricks to like realize he's about to get like sliced in half by the lightsaber that he uses the force. We could go on for 14 years about this, but it's
Yeah.
hopefully that I've heard that George Lucas is trying to get back on as and take over creator control,
Oh, okay. That'd be
which
cool.
would be really good.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are a few series that
Hmm.
I've heard that are coming out. I can't, I don't have confirmation, so but it'd be really cool to see some new stuff for sure.
Yeah. Did you watch the recent one with the girl? God, I forget what her name was. Ahsoka, that
Yeah,
series?
that one great series.
That
So
was a great
like
series.
the Obi-Wan series to me was incredible. I
Yeah.
watched it probably 3 or 4 times now, and it's just so cool. And what I really liked about that one is how they switched, because you thought it was all going to be about Luke Skywalker as a kid, and it's all about little Leia, Princess Leia, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka was really cool. The Mandalorian I really liked. They even did like
Yeah.
the Boba Fett one for one season. I thought they were going to continue that. That one was pretty cool. Um, I haven't watched there's that other one. I can't remember what it's called now. There's one
Bad
other
Man?
series. Uh,
Bad Batch. Oh, I haven't seen that
yeah, the
either.
Bad Batch. That's I think an animated one.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, we'll see what they got to
Oh,
come
oh,
out with something
the
pretty
one that
strong.
was like the prequel to Rogue One.
Andor,
Yeah.
Andor, I think it's called, or something like that. I didn't
Yep.
watch that one yet, so
Okay.
I I heard it's
I wish
good.
I had realized it was a prequel to Rogue One because I was kind of lost throughout all of it. And then towards the end, my son was like, dude, this is like the dude from Rogue One. I was like, oh. But then
Yeah,
I had to go back and rewatch Rogue One because it'd
Rogue
been
One's
so
a great
long.
movie in my opinion. Rogue One's probably one of the, it's like the underdog, kind of like,
Yeah.
like the black sheep of the Star Wars family, but I think it's awesome.
Yeah. It's one of
I
the
think it's
best
well
for
done.
sure. And
Yeah,
I love
very
that it's
cool.
standalone. And I love that I mean, there is a happy ending, but sorry, spoiler alert. But at the same time, like, that wasn't their purpose, was to live happily ever after. They had a
Right.
specific purpose and they stayed true to it. And so, with that, you can definitely appreciate that season for sure, or that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could just talk about Star Wars like for the rest of the show. I'm cool with that.
Well, another thing we got to talk about is NFL football, because
Oh,
as I told you, so I'll tell you my
yes.
story. So when I was a young boy, I played football, I played Pop Warner. And so the team I started playing for was the Charleswood Broncos. And so we had the same emblem as the Denver Broncos. And so, I thought it was the coolest thing. And so I started watching the Denver Broncos way back in the 80s. And, so they were my team just kind of by default. And we had some great years. We've had some incredible players, like John Elway, Shannon Sharp, Tyrell Davis. We've had them all. Peyton Manning, you know, it goes on and on and on and on. And I've
John
loved my
Lynch.
Broncos and always will.
Yep.
But since 2015, when they won the Super Bowl, it's been really hard and painful. And they're kind of like that friend that really disappoints you all the time, where you're like, you've really moved on in life and grown, and they're still like, you're rooting for them and you want them to like,
Yeah.
figure it out, but you're like, dude, I can't do this much longer, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't go for drinks at 11 in the morning, like you do, that's your life. And so the Denver Broncos have kind of become that like very lagging friend that causes me tons of grief.
Yeah.
So through my PS5 gaming, I play Madden all the time, and so I picked up San Fran as my team and started using them. And then last year, I just was like, "This is my new team."
Yeah.
So I know they're your team,
Yeah.
and they're exciting to watch. I think they got robbed in the Super Bowl.
Same.
I thought by all means they should have won that. And,
Yep.
we got all the crybaby Kansas City
Oh, well, it's
Chiefs.
hard to beat all the Swifty nation. Like, that's where you
Oh,
start going, is this shit just fixed? Okay, I can't think that way because it will ruin it for me.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's hard to ignore
Oh,
too.
yeah. It's so bad. Like, you know what? I mean, being a Broncos fan, I automatically don't like Kansas City, and I never have. I shouldn't say that. I liked them when they had Alex Smith, and they're a pretty cool team to watch. But this new age Kansas City, like the refs favoring them like crazy, and just like the temper
Yeah.
tantrums and little kid behavior by a number of their players.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful. I mean, I'll give Andy Reid credit; he's an incredible coach. Um, but yeah, like that Super Bowl to me seemed quite uh fixed. Like it just seemed like it
Same.
was gonna happen a certain way. I'm not sure what happened in overtime there. San Fran, I don't think understood the rules properly. Like they thought they could run the clock out and they'd win the game, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It was still a really awesome game to watch for sure.
Yeah.
But I think next year they'll take it.
Oh man, I hope so. Yeah,
I'm
it
on
was
board.
interesting. I mean, I was heartbroken, obviously, but somehow I just knew it was going to go that way. So it wasn't like a huge letdown because you just kind of felt like it was going to go that way, regardless of how good San Francisco played. That was the destiny, is how it felt. So I guess I just didn't feel like so heartbroken. But man, yeah, I hope we go next
Well,
year.
what I found really difficult to in understanding that it wasn't predetermined was you have a team that led the league in holding penalties for the regular season and wasn't called for one in the entire playoff run last year or this year, all the way to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
it's just really difficult, when you start seeing like a team that gets called with more offensive holding than any other team, and then they don't get called once, and yet they're still doing all the holding. Like when they show after, you're just like, you see how many times they held Bosa, and like you're just like, all the different things, right? And so it was definitely tough to watch for sure. But these things are part of the big scheme, I guess, and the money making machines. So,
Yeah.
but hopefully next year they can destroy them.
Yeah, they had to give the Swifties a win. I mean, because they just brought all that viewership into the
Ugh,
NFL, ruining it because all we saw
ugh.
was that box with her and her posse in there. And I'm like, dude, they're ruining football.
Oh, it's
Damn
awful.
it. Get out of here. There's no room for that here. Like,
It just
dude.
it's so sad that they had to utilize something like that to boost some. I mean,
Yeah.
they have good viewership already,
Yeah.
so I don't know, but whatever. Hopefully, who knows what will happen next year,
Well,
but
can you imagine what that does to the players, like psychologically, seeing that? I mean, because we watch the Warriors go through this shit all the time. Like Steph Curry's held more than any other fucking player on the planet, and he
yeah,
only gets called like a fraction of the times. And you see other players, his equivalent, you even get near their space, and they're getting fouls called on them. So it's very
yeah,
similar. I watch with both my sports of just this weird lopsidedness of, and I can only imagine what that does to a player psychologically when they see it as well, and then just trying to put that aside and saying we're still gonna, give it our all regardless.
yeah. That's got to be tough and very, very mentally grueling and annoying, right? You're just like this is just gross at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even know what a Taylor Swift song was if it came on, I don't think. But
Same.
yeah,
Oh,
and I'm
God.
pretty proud of that. But you say that around the wrong crowd of people, and holy man, they'll attack you. Like, I'm like, all right, live your
Yeah.
life. But like, I don't know, it's that kind of stuff's not for me, right? So
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, and
Hopefully
thank
next
gosh.
year,
You wouldn't
maybe.
be you if you were a Swifty, I have to say.
No, no, there's no
We
way I
probably
could
wouldn't
be.
be having this conversation.
We wouldn't. No, I no. And like I don't wish any ill will on anyone, but I just hope they break up and then it's done and it's over. And then we can all move on and just enjoy football the way we used to,
Exactly. The good
where
old fashioned way.
yeah, there's the odd celebrity in the crowd and you're like, whatever, who cares? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Instead of like this focal point, instead of the football is all on that.
Yeah.
Just
Agreed.
trash,
Agreed.
trash.
So here's to next year.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about you. How does your workout routine and diet look like these days? Has it changed, or have you been very set for a long time?
I've been working out forever, it seems. Like I'm 52 now. But I went through like, during COVID, I lost some weight. I was running all the time because I was challenging myself. I'd get up at like 4 in the morning, like a psychopath, and run every morning on an empty stomach because I hated running. So I was just trying to do things to push myself in
Yeah.
different ways, physically and mentally. But I've stopped that, and so I'm back more in the gym. But like my workouts look a lot different than they did even like 5 years ago. So now it's a lot of mobility, and I'd use a lot of cables, and I don't necessarily press a lot of heavy weight. Every once in a while, the ego gives me a little, hey, let's see if we can still, push 3 plates on this or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't. So, but nutrition wise, like I'm pretty lucky. My girlfriend like has a nutrition background and is
Mm,
and so she does all the food prep, and so I'm really lucky that way. So
yeah.
but I consume about, like my breakfast today was 170 grams of protein. So
That's a
I
lot.
do very
Yeah.
high protein, medium carbs, medium fat, and I work out with um, with weights and machines and all that 4 times a week, and then I'm in there doing cardio mobility 2 or 3 other times, and then I walk all the time, or I'm out hiking and different things. So yeah, like I start the day usually, with a couple hard-boiled eggs and a tablespoon of honey before I go to the gym at 6:30, and then
What's the honey for? For the glucose to get like things
yeah, just like
moving?
the natural sugars, and it's
Okay.
just and just gives, it just really works, kind of complements all the minerals and
Mm,
proteins in the egg, and that, and then so I'll do my pre-workout, and so I always put sea salt in there,
mm,
just to help, and electrolytes and all that, and
okay.
mix all that in, and then I'll go to the gym, work out for about 2 hours, usually about 20 minutes, half an hour of cardio, like just warm up, and then some
Mhm.
walking after on an incline, and then what I'm doing, and then I'll come home and I'll make a shake. So I'll put a couple eggs in the shake, 2 scoops of protein, a cup of cottage cheese, a cup of Greek yogurt, some collagen, and all the good stuff, bananas, and then peanut butter powder and all that kind of stuff. And put that all together, and that's about 90 grams of protein just on its own. So it's pretty
Yeah.
good. And
Wow.
then my girlfriend made this incredible protein oatmeal banana bread thing. So we eat those
Mm,
every morning. They're about 45 grams of protein, and just like, so it's all really good foods for the most part. So I'm starting to lean out as the weather gets nicer, and I gotta probably be outside more with less clothing on. I like to just sort of tighten things up. Gets a little tougher every year, it seems, as I'm getting older here. But yeah, I mean, it's an integral part of keeping myself in a very positive mindset. Like if I don't work out for a few days, it becomes quite challenging upstairs for me.
yep. Same.
Yeah, so the wheels don't turn as frequently as they do as if I'm working out all the time, and it's just such a positive thing, there on so many levels. Like every time you work out, you're releasing different chemicals in your brain, and you're getting that sense of accomplishment, and you're raising your heart rate, you're pumping more oxygen through the systems, and just so many good things, right? And overcoming the mental adversity of getting up and doing the workout, and you just champion through it, and so it's such a positive thing, right? And
Yeah.
I'll do it to the day I die, and that's just the way it'll be. Like even if I'm in a wheelchair or something, one day I'll find a way to do something. It's wired into me. My father was a bodybuilder and power lifter, and so I grew up idolizing him, and wanting
Mm.
to be like him, and all the other sorts of 70s bodybuilders like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all those guys, and still, even in my 52nd year on this planet, I still somehow think in my brain I can achieve Arnold Schwarzenegger's physique. But I don't think I ever will. It's But
Eh,
it's fun. It's part of the challenge, right? So
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like you're doing really good. And so much of that is consistency, but also for you, luckily, you've got some great DNA. So
Yeah,
that helps, but it's not the be all end all. You have to do the work and you're definitely doing the work. And I think a big part of that, like listening to your diet, maybe you've gotten kind of like I have, where I used to love eating out all the time, but now I'm becoming more aware of like, what are they actually putting in that food? What are the oils they're using? What are the
yeah,
sugar they're infusing in everything to make it taste better? And
yeah.
so I'm like way less inclined to want to go eat out because I've become more mindful of what I'm putting in my body.
100%. Like,
Even if
especially
I'm
like
just
all
eating like, oh, a steak, but it's like, yeah, but what did they cook that in? And
the,
so,
yeah,
yeah, I don't want to say it's kind of ruined things for me, but I think as you've been doing this, as long as you and I have, you just start to becoming aware of it and making choices that support, how you feel the best.
well, 100%. And like, you gotta do some research, like the poisons they're putting in food now and all the seed oils they cook, use. And I
Mhm.
mean, these things are horrific for the body. And it's just, it's crazy. Like, you go to a grocery store and 80% of the stuff in there isn't even food anymore,
Yeah.
so I
So
always
it's
used
the
to eat
same
out
in
all.
Canada because I know the US is by far the worst, like obviously the
Yeah,
most
it's not
unhealthy.
quite as bad here. Like, but it's still awful. And
Yeah.
everything's there's so much processed stuff. And you look at, like, you go look at bread, like a perfect example. Like, I love sourdough, right? And
Yeah.
so
Same.
I'll buy it from a bakery, and it'll be, uh yeast, flour, water, egg, or whatever, like 4 or 5 ingredients. You go buy a loaf of bread from a grocery store, and it's got a list this big of chemicals in it.
Yeah.
Like, for bread, it's supposed to have 4 things, right? And so that's all poison. Like, that stuff is not good for your body. These are what cause these cause cancer. These cause all kinds of different ailments and diseases in the body, right? So it's I think it's a great thing, when we get that awareness, especially when it comes to nutrition. Like, I'm learning so much all the time. Like, I immerse myself always in reading and podcasts,
Mm.
and um and uh and that, like, my girlfriend loves the Mind Pump guys, right? And
Mm.
they're really, they really know their stuff. And so she shares stuff with me on that, and it's great. But, like, for me too, like, one of the biggest thing is, like, I don't know if you knew this, but last summer I was in a horrific motorcycle accident. So August 28th, I was riding my Harley on the highway. I was going 110 kilometers an hour, and I hit a hole in the highway, and my bike
Wow.
exploded, and it catapulted me, and I actually flew and rolled for 328 feet down the highway.
Wow.
And so my Harley was in pieces. It was completely demolished, and it was actually flipping behind me at first. I thought it was going to land on me, and crazy. And then so I just, like, log rolled and spun. And eventually, after when I launched from my handlebars, I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna die. Like, I understand physics quite well, and I'm going 110 kilometers an hour and getting hurled into a concrete road. Like, I'm gonna be paralyzed at very best. And
So just
in
real
that
quick,
moment,
how does that translate to miles per hour, kilometers?
so that would be like 60 miles an hour, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty
On a
fast.
on a on a motorcycle. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was wearing a full face helmet,
Okay.
and so I just rolled and rolled and rolled. And so when I finally stopped moving, I remember I was looking up in at the sky, and I was scared to move because I knew I was alive, so I was happy, but I was terrified to try to move my hands or my legs because I thought for sure my back was broken, or my neck or something. And
Yeah.
eventually I'm like, I just did that, like this. I'm like, okay, I can move my hands, and then I can move my feet. And then I sat up and I took my helmet off, and I looked at my helmet, and it didn't even have a scuff on it. So my head never hit. So
Wow.
I'm like, okay, this is really good. I'm like, there's
Yeah.
not much up there to damage anymore, but at least we're good. And then I stood up and I looked, and my arms were this arm was out to here and pouring blood, and this one was pouring blood, and my legs were bloody, and my jeans were all ripped,
Wow.
and my back looked like Quasimodo, like it was just, and all the stuff. And
Was
so
it
they
now
put
were they
me.
out to here because there was like bones protruding or something like
No,
that?
it's instant swelling.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I was still in shock, so I didn't really know what was up
Sure.
yet. And so the ambulances came, and and fire departments and all that. And so they had me strapped to this hardboard and neck braced and head braced because they presumed the worst. They're all, saying like it's a miracle you're alive. Most people going 40 kilometers an hour, wouldn't have made it at your age out of this. But they
Wow.
attributed my life saving situation to my muscularity, to the shape I was in, because of the level of physical embodiment that I had. Like they said that that is what saved my life.
Wow.
And so they rushed me into the hospital and they had a trauma surgery team waiting for me. And they cut off all my clothes and then ran me through CTs and X-ray or CTs first. And they ran me through it a second time because they couldn't find any like spine damage. And they just like, this is impossible.
I couldn't believe it. Wow.
And then they did X-rays and I was so swollen that they actually missed some broken bones in my arms and stuff that they found later. But so they just, they couldn't believe that I A, was alive, and then B, that I wasn't paralyzed, but it
Yeah.
was all attributed to the fact that of the shape I was in. And, I share that not, I mean, I take some huge pride in that, obviously, because I've worked my ass off my entire life to have the build I have. And it's not, in my younger years, for sure, is very vanity based. It was always like I wanted to look the best and be the toughest looking guy and jacked and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it literally saved my life, and it can say it, and I think it's a powerful um, thing that like it can save your life on so many levels, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're using your heart and your cardiovascular and your respiratory systems, and you're maxing it out, and so you're just that alone can defeat so many things that take most people down. And you're in shape, so you're eating better, so your digestive stuff that which helps your brain, like just it all ties in, right? And
Yeah.
I think more now than ever, they're understanding the symbiotic relationship between the mind and body, and
Hmm.
how much, if you have that together, you are like an ultimate weapon, right? You have like superhuman capabilities, and I truly believe it. Like I shouldn't be here right now talking to you by
Yeah.
all odds. Like they uh they were calling, like, so I had to stay in the hospital for a bit because I had internal bleeding from my heart into my stomach from the
Oh,
impact, just like the initial, I guess, hit.
yeah.
And so they were calling me unbreakable in there. That's a Bruce Willis movie. I don't know if you remember it, but he was on a train that everybody died in this crash, but he lived. And we're both bald, so I guess people, thought I looked like Bruce Willis. And
I'm gonna have to watch this movie now.
yeah, it's older, and it's actually kind of cool.
I like that.
He becomes sort of like a superhero by default,
Yeah.
and it's an interesting movie for sure. But yeah, it was a crazy experience. But so after, like, that's what I was kind of going to segue to, is my workouts had to really change after that, because
Yeah.
I couldn't lift weights for quite a while, and then I had casts on this arm, and this elbow was like out to here. They had to drain it, and it was just like smashed and gross, and I was just in so much like crippling pain from the impact I absorbed into my muscles that protected my skeleton. It was really tough. I remember I was at the gym way before I should have been, like, because I was just like, I can't sit here anymore. So I'm just gonna go and ride the bike, and I'm bandaged from like here to here. So I'm on the bike, and I'm just like, like easy ride, but I'm happy. I'm in the gym, I'm in my place. Like, this is where I go. Like, this is my sanctuary. And this old lady like taps me on the shoulder, and she's like, "Sir, I just want to let you know, but you're bleeding all over the bike and all over the floor." And I looked down, and I guess all my wounds had opened up. I'm like, I'm gonna go home now. And so like I cleaned everything up, and I was just like, okay, I can't be at the gym yet. And so but it was really tough. Like, it was so hard on me mentally, not be able to go, right? Because again,
Yeah.
it's habitual, and it's a positive habitual routine that's so good for you. And but so after that, I had, I had to do like rehabilitation and physiotherapy style workouts, which were awful for me because they're very slow and deliberate and kind of boring. And I like to do explosive and like fun workouts and stuff that really
Yeah.
challenges me. But it's
So you're just strict pressing everything, just
oh, it was, yeah, it was all like cables, and then
Yeah.
just weird, like just softer movements, right? And
Yep.
in the end, I've adopted a number of those into my workout because they really help me. And but my like I said, so my workouts have definitely, like 5 years ago, I was still the very, like 3 sets of different types of bench press, 200 or whatever pounds, and now it's some cables and different techniques and different things. But that's all part of the evolution, right? If I continue to learn new techniques and new strategies to improve my level of of physical and mental fitness and health, right? So
Yeah.
just another chapter of learning. So
But it is interesting, and I know you experience this because I experience it. Meeting people our age, it's amazing how many people have kind of already phoned it in, like, oh, I got this hip and this, and I'm
yeah,
old. And I'm like, you could live like another 50 years. Like you're
yeah,
literally already phoning it in. Like this is where, you build the temple so that, your quality, because you're gonna live. So why not have great quality of life? Oh, that CrossFit, people get hurt. And I'm like,
yeah,
I would much rather get hurt in the gym doing something badass, like lifting some heavy
yeah,
weight, than getting out
yeah,
of bed because my core is so weak that I twisted wrong. And now, I've got to go to the chiropractor for the next 15 years because I refuse to just work on the structure and the foundation and the body for really quality, healthy longevity.
yeah. No, I agree 100%. Like, most people don't believe me when I tell them how old I am, which is a great compliment. I'm sure you get the same thing.
Yeah.
And but I got so many people that they're just like, yeah, I can't work out. And I'm like, why can't you? I'm like, I could give you a list of, I tore my Achilles 3 years ago. I've broken my legs. I have a herniated disc in my back. I've had multiple surgeries. I've been stabbed. I have scars all over my body. I've literally, crashed on a motorcycle going so bad that I should have been paralyzed or dead. I could like write a book just on all the things I've gone through, and I'm still in there. And yeah, it hurts, but that's part of it, right? You got to find your way past that hurt. And
Yeah.
that's how what it and and that's something you can carry on in just normal life. It's so easy just to throw a towel in and give up.
Yeah.
And our society is breeding it and multiplying it, by the minute. And it's it's such a weakened state of mindfulness nowadays, where everything, as soon as it gets hard, people are just like, nah.
That's it.
And that's I don't have I'm not wired that way. I'm old school, and I try to share that with so many people, whether they're young, old, whatever, older than me, younger than me, I don't care. They're gonna hear it.
Yeah.
And like that warrior spirit, like it's like you said though, like you're go- you're gonna live for another 25 or 50 years. So would you rather do it not being able to ride a bicycle, or do something, go like take your dog for a walk, or play with your kids or grandkids, or whatever you got or don't got, but do all these things? Wouldn't you rather be able to run down the beach, instead of just look at it on YouTube? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And like, just you got to put that a little bit of work in. And like, yeah, it's always hard in the beginning, but it's like anything in life. You take small little steps, and you use simple strategies. Small steps, simple strategy. They work perfectly together. And you know what? Every step you take creates a little bit more momentum. The strategy stays simple. It's like, this is what I got to achieve to get to this. Step, 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 you get there. And then all of a sudden you take a look back, and those little small steps, you're 14,000 miles from where you were a couple years ago, right? And it works in sobriety, it works in with your mental health, it works with jobs, it works with sales, it works with if you want to be a painter and do art. It doesn't matter. You just got to start and do the little steps, quit bitching and quit looking at all the bad things that can go wrong, and learn to believe. Again, we'll come
Mhm.
back to it, because you got to believe that you can do these things, and then you will.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's a tough concept for a lot of people to grasp,
Yeah.
is believing that they can do it.
Yeah. Well, again, we talk about the programming with society and especially, through the pandemic. It was already bad prior, but you know, it just forced that comfortableness. Stay comfortable, don't leave, you know, order your food, stay safe. Like it
Yeah.
pushed everybody into this viewpoint of not wanting to be uncomfortable. Why should I? It's instant gratification, it's
Yep.
comfort, it's ease. Like, why do I want to do that stuff on purpose when I don't have to? It could all be so
Yeah.
easy for me. But what they don't realize is it's this, you know, when you're
Yeah.
just going with ease, that's where your brain starts to corrode. Like, and so like for me, like you will add in like purposeful things of discomfort to push ourselves outside of that comfort zone, or else you're
Yeah.
going to just attract more adversity into your life, or you're going to crumble over any adversity because you're just like, whoa, this isn't how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be safe and easy. Like, what's happening?
Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's a very delusional state. And you know, it's governed by fear, right? And so,
Mm,
you know, and they've done an exceptional job programming, you know, the masses into this very sedated state of living.
mm,
And it breaks my heart, like it really does. I'm so happy that I got to live before it, because, you know, I watch like a lot of the kids I work with, you know, in their young years of school had to stay home, and you can see how much it's dramatically affected them.
yeah.
And you know, it's just it's crazy, right? Like and all the things they, you know, tried to continually pound into people's minds over the pandemic and after, and still, you know, now it's war and it's this and it's, you know, and body shaming and all the things, you know, like I mean, it's just you can't even, and now people are so afraid even just to talk about things or have an oppositional stand on something, because automatically it means you're full of hate and you're this some type of phobic and you're, you know, you're all the, it's just it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
just to
And you're
me
going to
it's
get
so
canceled because you're not going
yeah,
along with
like
the narrative.
yeah, and it's just, you know, I give props to the famous people out there that just said fuck it
Yeah.
and I don't care and I'm gonna not do this and I'm going to, you know, make my stand or say what I got to say. And, you know, like, it takes guts and it takes real courage, because it's easy to follow the herd and just, you know, be unnoticeable. And that's what this world is trying to turn everyone into, is just an unnoticeable memory that we'll never accomplish or achieve. And, but it's like people like you and people like me and many other people that use their platform and their charismatic personalities to help change that, you know, and again, I believe that I am, and I believe you are, and so many other people are. Like you could go on social media and just focus on all the negative shit because there's a lot of it. But me, I find like I constantly promote positive mental health encouragement out there and try to help people and lead the way. And I know you do as well with so many different things. And you know, people, you know, you've had some great guests on your podcast, Andy Frischella, right? Incredible dude. And like there's a guy right there that, you know, speaks his mind and doesn't care about the narrative and is 100% who he is, right? And that's admirable and
Yeah.
exceptional. And you know, you look up to him, I look up to him, and so many other people do, right? Because it's truth,
Yeah.
right? And that's, this world lacks truth right now. It's astonishing to me how corrupt and dishonest this world is. But I
Yeah.
can't let it beat me, and I can't let it eat me, and I can't let it consume me, right? So, and you, that's what you say, like that's why I'm a nutcase in the gym, and that's why I
Yeah.
do all the things I do, and I go do weird hikes by myself in a forest where I could get attacked by bears. I don't care. You know what I
Same.
mean? It's just, you got to do it,
Yeah.
right? And then you do it,
Yeah.
and then you're like, you feel alive again, right? And
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. This world doesn't want you to feel alive. This world wants you to feel basically dead.
Yeah.
And I refuse to do that. You refuse to do it, and so many other people. And we just got to keep uniting and inspiring other people. And one by one, we'll change this world.
Hell yeah. My favorite worst thing that I do to inspire that is go in the cold plunge and then positive affirmation myself because I hate it because I hate being cold. You're
Yeah.
such a badass, and you know, and I just like really try to nail in the positive affirmations while I'm suffering and shaking and
Yeah.
forcing myself into this thing that I could easily just get out of. But I'm
Yeah.
like, you're staying in there, and we're gonna do this. And you know, when you do something you hate, but you know there's a lot of benefit to it, you do put a lot of that shit aside because you're self-imposing this adversity, like you, like me in the forest by myself. I'm like, what am I doing out here in the middle of nowhere with no reception, all by myself and just my dogs? Like,
Yeah.
but you know, this is where we feel alive. We're on that fringe of pushing the boundaries and feeling alive and feeling that adversity so that we're not shocked when life puts in some adversity. It's like we're already there. We're already conditioned for it. We can handle it. And then
Yeah.
we lead from the front and try to inspire others to do the same by, you know, being healthy, doing big things, speaking our voice in a way that people can have it. You know, Andy is amazing. He's like one of my favorite people on the planet. Not a lot of people can hear that truth, not in the manner that he delivers. So, you know, you and I can sort of say the same things, but in a gentler way that is more digestible by other people, but we're all kind of having the same message.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And onto your point about, going out to the forest, what's wild, I mean, no pun intended there, but what's wild about that is that should just be normal for
Yeah.
people. You know what I mean? You go back 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, people were always go out camping and always out in the bush and always doing stuff. Like it was just normal. Nowadays it seems such a an extreme adventure to go for a hike in a forest, and
Yeah.
I do ecotherapy with kids, and so my job is like I'm doing land-based activities all the time with them, some cultural stuff, different things, but I'm always incorporating nature and biology and biodiversity and the lessons that the land can teach us and as a way to get through these kids, right? And that come from, not the best places, and have a lot of unfortunate and adversity that's not their fault in their lives, right? And
Yeah.
so, my job is to make their lives better. And like most of them are single moms that the kids I work with, and a lot of them were against me taking them out into like I'd take them for a 2-hour drive out into a big provincial park where it's all forested, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna hike for 3 hours, boys, and no, you can't have your phone, and no, you can't have a plastic water bottle. Like, I'll take care of everything, and I'll take care of you, and I'm going to show you the way, and we're going to learn stuff together, and then we're going to sit and we're going to talk about different things, and we're going to feel different things, and then when they come out of it, it's the most incredible experience they've ever had in their life, and then that's all I get now. I get texts by these 8-year-old kids I work with, 10-year-old kids. I don't know.
Aw.
They're texting me, when's the next hike? And I'm like, first of all, you shouldn't be texting me. Okay. Your mom is supposed to text me, not you. And secondly, Saturday. Okay. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
see you
you kind of
Saturday. I'll pick you
respect
up.
that little
See you
rebellious
up at
spirit,
10
though.
a.m. We're going, or whatever. So, but it's incredible. And I just by default share my love of nature that my father, gave to me. And I give that gift back to these kids, and it completely inspires them. And if I can teach them these lessons early in their life, my belief is that they'll carry it through and teach their kids, and at least it'll keep it going.
Love
Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's lots of people that love to go on hikes so they can take pictures and put it on social media or, all this different shit. But like, to me, going out into nature is like, I don't take my phone. I just sit there and I'm quiet, and
yeah,
I listen to the birds, and I listen to the bugs chirping, and I listen to the trees, the branches creaking, and the rustling of the leaves. And it's a symphony that calms my mind,
yeah.
right? And it just puts
And the
me into this
smells from
meditative
the earth,
state.
just
Oh,
like,
everything, yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, these are primordial things we tie into, right? And we're supposed to be in nature, and it's such a powerful instrument for so many therapeutic things. And
yeah.
it's just like you said. I often get considered crazy because I go do these, like, I used to go into the woods for like 3 days by myself and just take a hammock,
Mm,
like a tent hammock that I tie up high in between trees so wolves or bears couldn't get at me. And I could just take a small backpack and figure my life out for a few days in there,
yeah.
and just be like, okay. And people just were like, you're nuts. And I'm like, but am I? Or are you not? Or are you nuts for not giving it a try? Because I'll tell you, it changes my life every time I do it. You
Yeah.
know, I'm not saying you got to be as extreme as I do, but you know, you got to get out there and enjoy nature. It's such a powerful thing to connect to, with so many benefits, you know, like grounding, you know, getting out there and walking around in your bare
Grounding's
feet.
huge. Yeah.
You know, you have the benefits of the ocean
Yeah.
and mountains and all kinds of stuff, you know, within your proximity. And I mean, you know, the ocean is such a
Yeah.
powerful therapeutic instrument. And you know, all that water casts off what are called negative ions. In the world of ions, negatives are really good for you. They come in and they charge you up and they give you all this incredible energy. And you get it from mountains, and you get it from, you know, really powerful lakes and rivers and waterfalls and all these different things. And you're not going to find a lot of that, you know, on the average suburban city development, right? So you got to get out in nature, and it just resets you, you know.
It's true. Yeah, it's why I tell everybody, it's why I pay the price to be here. Cause you know, a lot of people are like, how can you run a business in California and the laws and the rules? And I'm like, dude, I get it. But look at where I live. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm now at a point, and I took it for granted for many years and did not take advantage of that nature part. But now after I like go on a trip and you know, you're around a bunch of people in different cities and travel and all that, like I love to come back and go straight down to the beach, take off my shoes with my
Yeah.
dogs and just walk. And now, you know, it used to be, it would just like, bring me into the present, which it still does. But now it also brings in gratitude. Like it just almost immediately I start thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for, all the things that, you know, have gone right, or, you know, just reflection. And so like to be then grounding with gratitude, it's just like there's no better feeling on the planet. Like it's phenomenal. There's nothing that can replace that in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
1,000,000%. I don't have the benefit of the oceans, but you know, I was down in Mexico in February
Mm.
and the beginning of March, and like literally as soon as we got off the plane into a cab to the resort, and like not at like suitcases, I don't even know if they were in the room yet. I didn't care. Like right to the ocean,
Yeah.
right to the sand, you know, and it's just like, and it's just like I'm home, you know, and
Yeah.
it's such a powerful feeling. So, you know, and it's sad that so many people miss out on it, but you know, it takes people like us just to talk about it and live it. And then,
Yeah.
you know, you live by example, people follow.
Yeah. So then, and I know we got to wrap up here soon, but let's talk about what, or explain exactly what is ecotherapy. Is it just that, just going into nature, or you do processes in nature, you plant stuff? What is it?
Yeah, so what I do is I do two forms of therapy with kids. So I do action therapy and I do ecotherapy. So action therapy is I utilize everything from, you know, art to sports to activities, a little bit outside of the, you know, let's sit down and I'll talk about stuff under a spotlight
Mm.
and you know, and come to my office and all that. And so what I try to do with action therapy is encourage, you know, you get to understand the personalities, and so you start to look at what you can do through different activities to encourage, you know, maybe some more involvement or participation where they wouldn't normally do it, and overcome some
Mm.
fears in different parts of their personality that's holding them back. And then so ecotherapy is quite similar in the same regard. But what we do is we really utilize indigenous teachings,
Mm.
um, about the land and about nature and all that. And sort of we look at all the different life cycles, and then how we can use animals, animal therapy, plants, and nature itself, like I said, is sort of that really nice backdrop to break through to kids. And then what it really does is what you know, I get the benefit of, you know, taking these kids out and doing things, but then I put them in charge, right? So now it's like it's character development and it's personal development and self-discovery, because I'll task them with certain things, you know, that, you know, I know this is a challenge, say for this one boy, and I know he does, you know, he thinks he's a failure and he thinks he's dumb and he thinks nobody likes him. So I'll put him in charge, and I'll put him in charge of the group, and he doesn't want that, but I don't let him not do it. And so it's developing the different strengths through their weaknesses in a really beautiful backdrop, right? And so
Mm.
ecotherapy was sort of designed, like schools are awful, right? Schools are a prison. Schools, you know, like you look at a school, a prison, and a hospital, they all look the exact same.
Mhm.
And they're awful environments for kids, especially kids with different compromised, um, you know, lives, and you know, if they're neurodivergent or different things like this. So I get them out into nature, which again, I exploit all the beautiful things, like all the sounds, the smells, and what it does is it calms them, and then I'm able to get them into a state where I can have some very therapeutic conversations with them that doesn't seem like a, you know, an interrogation or what's wrong with you, let's figure, you know, all these different things like that. It's
Yeah.
more about promoting them and encouraging, you know, and then getting them to, like I said, really adapt into the environment we're in, and you know, through orientations or tasking and different things like that. So it for me, it's a dream job. I'm basically a therapist being a big kid, and
Yeah.
I'm really good at that. So I love it, and the kids love it, and I'm incredibly grateful for the position, and for who I work with, and it's just it's such a fascinating career that just kind of stumbled upon me. I'm actually starting another course in the beginning of May, um, which is like it's a child and nature practitioner course. So it's or sorry, yeah, 5 days in the bush, and then a year of curriculum and all that kind of stuff, the boring
Wow.
part of it, but really cool stuff. So like, you know, like as much as I know I can always learn more. And there's always someone with a different perspective or some type of really cool little insight that's going to inspire me to take it back to the kids right away,
Yeah.
and that. So it's fun. It's a lot of activities. It's a lot of bonding, and it's just it's an incredible experience for the kids.
Yeah, well, and what I'm hearing, it's similar to what with my program. They also get that electronic detox. You know, they're
Yep,
not glued to the phone or the social media or
yep,
the dings or the big. Oh, it's just gone. And at first there's like this anxiety because it's become so like a part of kids, all of us really. But
yeah,
to once they get over that, there's so much freedom in not being tethered to that,
yeah,
that a lot of people never experience. So it's amazing that you're able to give that to them in something that they would never like agree to if they knew that was part of it. But once they're in it, they're like, oh, this is such a relief. It feels so good just being separated from that little thing.
yeah. Like right now, it's catching frog season here because all the frogs have come out from their hibernations,
Yeah.
and so they're all looking for some love right now. So they're all croaking away and singing away. So I
Uh-huh.
got a couple programs lined up that we'll go and do that, and just like
But you
just
just like catch them and pet them, right? We're not hurting the frogs.
I would never hurt any animal
I
ever.
love that. Yes, good.
Human being maybe, but you know,
Exactly.
animals not a chance.
Yep.
So and that's one of the a big lesson I teach kids all the time is, and they understand it. If they are going to hurt an animal in my program, they never come on a program again. And so I, you know, if they don't want to handle the animals, like say we go catch garter snakes or something like that, if they or turtles, if they're not comfortable with it, that's cool. They just observe. It doesn't mean they hurt them or scare them or anything like that. So but it's fun, you know, you turn it into maybe a little bit of a competition, and you know, you make fun, and not the competition who can catch the most, but like what I would do is get them to catch a frog, and then they got to name it, and then they got to tell me why they named it that name, and then they got to release it and try and find it again, and you know, just like little fun games, and then it's creating like memory recognitions and you know, problem solving and all these different things that you know really empowers the child to excel, and you
Yeah.
know, to overcome a lot of things that normally they would never do. They just give up.
Yep. And critical thinking, which, with that invention, they don't have to think anymore. So you're giving them that ability to do so without someone just telling them what the answer is or giving them what they need. They got to like figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's invaluable and definitely lacking.
Yeah, yeah. There's the group that I work for. It's called Roots and Wings, and you know, we got about 160 kids now in our
Wow.
program and growing every week. And
Wow.
I mean, that's just a tiny fraction of just what, you know, the demand for it here. I mean, across Canada, the United States,
Yeah.
Mexico, the world. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
There are there are billions of children that need way much more than they're getting.
Yeah.
But so I'm very fortunate and very grateful every day that I get to do what I do and be a big professional kid. And you know what, I'll do it to till the day I can't do it anymore. And it's 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 very therapeutic and cathartic for me as well, obviously. And it heals me constantly and humbles me. And that again, I'm just grateful for it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I am extremely grateful that you're there providing that, because it is definitely needed. And hopefully you're inspiring others to do the same, so we can like, change things, get it back to the way it used to be, get back to the basics and the easy
Yeah.
stuff and away from all the noise. So thank you
Yeah.
for doing everything that you do to help with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And will you tell our listeners where they could find you if they want to connect with you, if they want your
Sure.
books, when they want your books,
Yeah,
all that stuff?
sure. My Instagram is Jason Tyler McClean. So you can come on there. My book, One Drop of Water, I have one here. I'll just do this one here. So this is available on Amazon, on 17 different marketplaces worldwide on Amazon there. So it's available in ebook or paperback. My next book, The Monarch Butterfly Effect, will be out May 31st, and that will be available on Amazon and Kindle as well. And then shortly after that, it'll be available on Audible, Apple, and all the audiobook major sites. Yeah, so Jason Tyler McClean is Instagram, probably the easiest place in there. There's my website is jasontylermclean.com. And there's links on there to if you wanted to talk about setting up, speaking to a group or doing one of my workshops or whatever, contacting me for a personal reason you need some help or inspiration. So.
Oh, I love that. Are you going to narrate your Audible?
I tried with my first book and I got about halfway through it, and it's so hard. It's so hard to do, because I don't know. I have this weird thing that my father passed on to me where I choke on my saliva every once in a while for just no particular reason. But usually in times when I really shouldn't, it's like a weird, I don't know. So, but I would I'd be reading and then I'd be like, oh, and then, or I'd be like swallow too loud, or it's just so hard to do. And so One Drop of Water is a really emotional book. And so there's times too, it became very challenging for me to read because I would relive the emotions of what I was reading.
Yeah.
This book again ties into a lot of some really powerful stuff for sure. So I'm going to attempt to try and do it. But again, we'll see. I may have to just source out a actor that has a voice similar to mine and go from there. So, it's really it's different if you just read out loud to like a friend or to yourself, but when you're in like a sound booth and you can hear every single little thing, and it's difficult.
Yeah, you got to enunciate everything. You got to pause correctly. I mean, I've never done it, but I can only imagine that it is difficult.
Yeah, and they have some really, really gifted, trained voice actors out there. So
yeah,
that's probably what I'm going to lean to. When I do say I will attempt it, more or less, it's probably ended up being some dude with a voice like mine out there. So
perfect.
He's got to sound like Batman, and then he'll get the job. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne's on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was so great to talk to you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was I was so excited when we reconnected, and I loved the first one talking with you way back, and it's always kept a nice place in my heart, and it was truly my pleasure to be on your show today. Thank you, Angie.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.